doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking now. His street, what to talk about. See the big H when I'm walking out. Yeah.
Man. College football is a mess. College football is a mess, especially looking at what we got last weekend. It's only right we come on to the locker room, Athletes Forum podcast here, and we talk some college football. All right. I'm not going to sit here and reflect on last week's games or anything like that, but more so kind of talk about where we are at this point in the season of college football. Bowl games are around the corner. Playoffs are around the corner. Things are getting interesting, and we're here to dive into it. All right, we may be talking about your team. So again, you know how the locker room works. Drop a comment, like the video, share with a friend, but more importantly, this is an interactive show. So let's talk here because college football is a mess. What is the committee going to do when it comes to these playoffs? Because what happened in the SEC this past weekend basically gave a lot of teams their ninth live. You know, Cats got 9 lives. SEC gave a lot of teams hope. And again, it's just how the conference works, the teams, the schedules, and all that stuff. And then when you look at the Big Ten, you know, how good are those other 2 teams after Oklahoma and Oregon? Big 12 is a mess. But I want to start with the ACC. And this would be real quick. SMU is coming out the ACC. All right. I think SMU is going to play Miami in the ACC championship. It's going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to come out of the ACC. Now, why am I saying that? Because what's that going to do to a 2-loss Miami team? Do they have enough juice to stick around for those final 7 spots after you give those 5 conference winners their positioning? All right? Can a 2-loss Miami team stand and withhold those arguments and those comparisons that's going to happen in the committee? Miami fans, you let me know what you think. If first of all, you get to ACC championship, if you lose to SMU, which I think is going to happen, I'm not hating, I'm just going off what I see. I think SMU is the best team in the ACC. Do we think a potential 2-loss Miami team could get in? I would love to see Cam Ward in there. But is the defense going to do enough to help get them there? I mean, they almost struggled against Wake Forest. Miami doesn't play a full game, you know, a complimentary full game on offense and defense. They'll stick around. And for some reason, that third and fourth quarter comes in, offense will just explode, right? And the score was a lot closer than what the game actually was when they played Wake Forest this past weekend. But again, how's that going to fare if they get to the playoffs, all right? So the ACC, do we get 2 teams out of the ACC, right? Because my question to the locker room, you guys, do we even have 12 quality teams for this playoff? Are we biting off more than we can chew as fans, right? We wanted this 12-team playoff, but are there even 12 quality teams that we could say belong in the playoffs or have championship hopes? That's a question we got to think about. All right? We go to the Big 12, and it's a mess. It's a mess in the Big 12. Colorado loses to Kansas. Arizona State beats BYU in a crazy ending to that game, right? Iowa State now controls their own destiny. What the hell is going to happen this weekend? Right? I'll tell you what, Arizona State and Iowa State, they win, they're in. All right? Big 12 championship, right? You know, BYU, Colorado, they need some help now. They fumbled the bag like Coach Sanders said, right? Those teams had the destiny in their hand. BYU losing to Kansas, almost losing to Utah, losing to Arizona State when they were in sole possession of first place. Colorado, did they start believing the hype? Right? Colorado's my second team. Y'all know where I rock. I'm a Gators guy. Colorado's my second team because of I respect everything they got going on there. But what's gonna happen this weekend? They got Colorado has Oregon State. Colorado has Oklahoma State. I think they'll beat them. Arizona State plays Arizona. BYU plays Houston. Iowa State, I'm not sure who they play. But, again, I asked this last week. Who's coming out the Big 12? Does Colorado still have hope, right? Could Houston upset BYU? I think Arizona's the best team right now in the Big 12. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And they've been finishing mighty strong. mighty strong. Again, who's coming out the Big 12, right? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how these teams, how these scenarios definitely play out. And, this is why we love college football, because the craziness and the chaos and everything that comes along with it. Not to mention this 12-team playoff, these expanded conferences. This is the result of that. This is the part of the season we wanted. We wanted quality, hard-nosed, tough football late in the season, games that mean something, teams that have hope, right? And we got that. We got that. So, locker room, you talk to me. Who's coming out the Big 12? I think it's Arizona State. I'm hoping it's Colorado. Would love to see Deion in potential opportunity to get to the Big 12. But if I'm being frank, I think Arizona State might be the best team, playing the best ball, right? BYU's not. People almost forgot about Iowa State. And shout out to Kansas, man. Kansas. I heard this stat from Joel Klatt. I watch a lot of his videos, so I want to give him credit. If Kansas were in 5 1-point games that they lost, if those games stopped and ended at the 2-minute mark, Kansas would be 9-1 right now. How crazy is that? Kansas is potentially the best team in the Big 12, playing their best ball right now. And they gave it to Colorado. I want to give a shout out to Kansas. Kansas, you deserve some credit for that win on senior day. It's too bad you're not in the position you wanted to be in, but they're playing spoiler. They're playing to get bowl eligible. All right, we'll see. We go to the Big Ten. I said this a couple weeks ago. I thought Georgia showed me something where I was like, okay, they might be the team. But after last weekend, I don't know. The reason why I bring up Georgia is because I'm starting to think Ohio State might be the best team in the Big Ten. Might be the best team in college football. How do we look at Ohio State? Listen, beat Indiana. The game was not even close compared to what the score was. I think it was a 15-point win. Obviously, Ohio State covered. Ohio State they play Michigan this weekend in the game. I'm sure they'll win. Or at least I feel like they'll win. But you can never know in rivalry games. They'll get to the Big Ten championship and probably play Oregon again. Ohio State is dangerous, man. That defense, Ohio State's defense is so good. So good. Corners, they'll get there. They'll get there. D-line, that front seven is ferocious, man. That front seven is ferocious. And, what they did against Indiana, once they started applying pressure to Curtis Work, who lacks a little bit of mobility, it was night-night. It was over. Ohio State is not a team to be messed with. They're most likely in. Obviously, Oregon's in. Indiana's in. And Indiana could send a big Christmas gift to the SEC, because what happened this past week in the SEC is almost a sure bet. If Indiana and Penn State, obviously, they went out, they're in. They are in. Regardless of what people think about the SEC, the schedule, playing each other, cannibalize each other, what happened in the SEC gave these teams a Christmas gift to possibly get in, and that's Indiana and Penn State. So the Big Ten will probably get 4 teams in the playoffs. All right. Let's talk about the SEC, because there was a minute Georgia was hanging around with UMass. What? Georgia out here hanging around with UMass. Oh my God. I mean, Georgia's not down. I don't want to say that. What I will say is Georgia's a team that plays up and down to their competition. You saw what they did against Texas. You saw what they did against Tennessee. If there was one more quarter in that Alabama game, they probably would have won. Georgia is a team that plays up and down to their competition. And that's scary going into the playoffs, because they could secretly be one of the best teams. And if they have to go to a Notre Dame or a Penn State, that's not a good matchup for those guys. But at the end of the day, again, hanging around with UMass definitely says something. It says something whether we want to see it or not. Alabama, it ain't looking good for Alabama. I think Alabama might be out. It's a shame because they have some of the best wins, but some of the worst losses. You struggle against South Carolina. You lose to Vanderbilt, who's good right now, but at the time it was Vanderbilt. You lose to Oklahoma, who has 5 losses in the SEC. Alabama might be out. And it's crazy because the one thing everyone said when Kalen DeBoer got the job at Alabama is he has to at least make the playoffs. You can't come take over a Nick Saban team and not at least make the playoffs, especially seeing what Nick Saban did over the years of his time at Alabama. So what's going to happen here? Is that I don't know. Alabama might be out. Ole Miss definitely out. Go Gators. Go Gators. Hey, them boys in the swamp is dangerous. We got Florida State this weekend. Hopefully we take care of business. We're going bowling, but them boys in the swamp is dangerous, right? You know who else is a dangerous team? South Carolina. If Texas beats Texas A&M this weekend, which could very well happen, but who knows? Texas getting caught looking ahead. Maybe this is the game that they're focused in. They need that loss against Auburn. But South Carolina will deserve a spot, in my opinion, if Texas beats Texas A&M. We saw what they did against LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M. South Carolina is no joke. South Carolina is not a team you want to see in that first round, right? South Carolina is dangerous, and I know they're rooting for Texas, so we'll see what happens. But if Texas beats A&M this weekend, I think South Carolina's definitely in. And how about Auburn? It's, Nick Saban said this. Jordan Hare is spooky. Crazy things happen in Jordan Hare, right? You go to, 4 overtimes against A&M and you win 43-41? Wow. Is Auburn a team to look forward to next year? If you look at SEC teams to look forward to next year, Auburn, Florida, South Carolina, what do they all have in common? Except Auburn. Auburn just signed Deuce Knight, who was committed to Notre Dame. Him matched up with Cam Coleman, that wide receiver, could be a future for Auburn. But you look at the SEC, Texas A&M. You look at Tennessee. You look at Florida. You look at South Carolina. What do all those teams have in common? They got a quarterback coming back. So if you think this year could get crazy in the SEC, and obviously we're living in the moment, next year we could see teams from the Wild Wild West start making moves. So the SEC is getting crazy, and obviously what we saw this past weekend helps teams like the ACC. Helps teams like the ACC. Maybe they get 2 teams in. The Big Ten, they're definitely getting 4 now. Notre Dame's a virtual lock. All you got to do is win out. All right. Big 12, did the window open up big enough for a second Big 12 team? I don't think so. Especially, where those teams were and who they lost to. But college football is crazy, and we're here for it. We're here for all the smoke. We're excited for it. Locker room, drop a comment. Let me know what you think. All right. Are there 12 quality teams? Are we biting off more than we could chew? Is this what we wanted when the 12-team playoff was announced this type of season? What's going to happen this weekend? Rivalry weekend. We got Florida State. All right. We got South Carolina, Clemson. We got Texas A&M. All right. We got some big games. Colorado, Oklahoma State. Not really a big game, but I wanted to shout out Colorado. Right. What happens this weekend? Who gets into the playoffs? I want all your thoughts. Drop them in the comment. Let me know what you think. And please hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 500.